everyone, this is Faith at Faith and Books, and this is my Friday updates. I didn't put up a tag on Tuesday because last week was a tiring week. This week has also been tiring. I've had a lot of insomnia. I'm having like arthritic flares, so I'm just sort of hobbling through the week. So I'm just going to give a brief update, and then I'm going to do a short tag. So I'm continuing to read. I got back to reading The Brothers Karamazov. Is that right? And I'm enjoying it. Poor Dmitri is having a breakdown. I think we're going to get to the climatic event pretty soon in a few pages. I'm just, because of the insomnia, I'm really struggling to read my books. Like, I can read Kindle, but or get up early and try to read, but I just don't get very far. I get really slow, and I fall asleep after just a couple of pages. And I tend to like to read chapters, like finish a chapter, at least where there's a break. But I've just been falling asleep mid-sentence. So it's been very slow going, but I'm enjoying the book in spite of that. So that's that. And then I'm also reading Les Miserables, and this one I keep falling asleep, even though it's really good. It's really, really good, like really good. If I wasn't so tired, I would be like zooming through this. And if I had more free time, I'd be zooming through this, just completely immersed in it. I'm up to page 42 here, and it's an in-depth character study of this bishop. And I don't know, it's in the section called Fantine. I don't remember this. I read this, I think, like an abridged version, like back when I was 18 or something. So I have really no memory of it. It's like I'm reading it for the first time. But I have to show you this. I found this postcard. And it looks pretty new. You know, it's not backed up or anything. And I'm using it as a bookmark because I think that would make my mother really happy. But this is a postcard that my mother sent me when I was 12. And there's her handwriting. Okay. And it says, let's see if I can read her handwriting. We visited this gallery yesterday, the Vincent van Gogh gallery. We love Amsterdam. The tulip fields are so beautiful you wouldn't believe it. Miles of every color imaginable. The 2 fishing villages we visited yesterday were fascinating. Also stopped at a cheese farm. Love, Mom. So that was when I was 12, and my mom wrote me this postcard. That was the first time they went to Europe. My brother had just drowned. And one day my father came home and said, we're going to go take a trip. And that was the one and only time they went through a tour group, because it turned out they were really, really good travelers, and they loved planning their own tours, and they went to Europe many times after that. But that was the first time, and that was a postcard that I just found. How was that preserved all these years? I don't know. But anyway, so I'm really enjoying Les Miserables. I just am frustrated that I'm so tired and reading so slowly. And then I'm also reading, in the night, I'm reading The Tale of Holly Howe, The Cottage Tales of Beatrix Potter. I always get the names of this mystery series wrong, but they're called The Cottage Tales of Beatrix Potter. I finished chapter 2, and I have a feeling that I'm not going to remember anything. I mean, if you asked me right now what was going on, I would not have any idea. So I think I'm going to have to maybe go back and reread, because I'm just too tired. I've just really been plagued by insomnia, and it's turning me into a zombie. So anyway, so those were the 3 things I was going to talk about. I actually managed to get to the library. They shut them down again because Virginia really surged with COVID. Now things are coming back down again. Maybe they'll open them up again. So I hadn't realized that. They had been closed just for curbside pickup, but then they opened up again where you could just go in for a limited time you had to be masked and socially distanced, everything. And we did that once, and that made me feel kind of nervous, actually. And then we just stopped. I got him all those books for the 12 Days of Christmas. We weren't really interested in going to the library, but today we tried to. But when I got there, I realized it wasn't open and I was supposed to do the curbside thing. So I called them from the car and I tried to find a book. And I wanted to get a Rabbit Hill, which was, Kate Howe reminded me of that book. Because we had our Victorian book club and they were the topic. It's a Victorian book club Zoom meeting that she does every 2 months. And but they were talking about your favorite middle grade books because middle grade March. And so she brought that up. So I thought, well, I think the 5-year-old would really, really like that book. So I wanted that one. And then we recently got an Uncle Wiggily game. And then the 5-year-old has been really into counting to 100. Like he really loves counting to 100. And that game is a game from 1 to 100. So I thought, well, let's get the book. Let's see if maybe, but they didn't have any Uncle Wiggily books. They didn't have Rabbit Hill, but they did have this one. So we have been reading Thornton Burgess books on squirrels. The squirrel one, now I can't remember the name. I can only remember Beatrix Potter's The Squirrel Neckin, but it was Jack was one of the squirrels, and what was the other one? I don't remember. Anyway, see, my brain, I can't remember anything right now. Anyway, I remember reading this book to my children. My oldest children, oldest is now 30. I remember reading this book to them, and it made us want spring so much that we had a picnic in the living room. We decided to have a picnic in the living room, and I told the little 5-year-old that, and he thought that was really good. So we haven't started reading. We just got it this morning, but we're gonna start reading this one. So it's Old Mother West Wind by Thornton W. Burgess, and this one is different from the ones that you typically get from the Dover publications. It's illustrated by Michael Haig, so it's got some really, instead of like the little simple black and white drawings, which I think were by Burgess, we've got these beautiful illustrations by Michael Haig, so that's neat. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that'll be a fun book that will take off with the little guy. So now let me do my tag here. So I got this from Charles Heathcote, who I hadn't visited for a while. I really enjoy his channel. He's just a fun human being. I really like him. And he was tagged by, well, I won't say because she didn't originate it. The originator of this tag is Melissa of Libraries and Labradors. And you can visit Charles's his video too. I'll put the link below of both the originator and Charles. So here are the prompts. So it's called the Jane Austen Heroes tag. Prompt number 1, Mr. Darcy, pick a book you thought you wouldn't like but ended up loving. And I'm going to say The Scarlet Letter, and I don't have the book with me to hold up, but I dreaded Nathaniel Hawthorne ever since a bad experience in high school, trying to read one of his short stories, Young Goodman Brown, not understanding it, thinking, oh my goodness. And I never was assigned it in high school or college, and I didn't read it until much later in life, and it just gobsmacked me. It was just wonderful. And I've since become a real fan of Nathaniel Hawthorne. I'm trying to read everything he wrote. I really enjoy him. So I'm going to say The Scarlet Letter. I was intimidated by it, but I found that it was absolutely wonderful. Prompt number 2, Mr. Collins, pick a book you said nope to, DNF. I do want to go back and read this one day because I want to read everything by Anthony Trollope. And Anthony Trollope is a great writer. I love him. I mean, you see how far I got. But I was reading this right around the election and the aftermath. And this book is about corrupt politicians. And it's so cynical. There's nobody good in it. And and somebody told me that this was Trollope's like kind of darkest book. And I was feeling so anxious and stressed out about everything. I wanted an escape rather than somebody's, very cynical take on human nature. And so even though he's a wonderful writer, and I'm sure it's a complex, interesting book that has great things to say about politics and power, I just wasn't in the mood. I just couldn't stick to it. And I felt terrible because I really love Anthony Trollope and I want to read more by him. And I know he's a really good writer. So I felt very, very bad about DNFing. But finally I decided, you know what? Life's too short. Maybe another time I'll pick it up. So that was Mr. Collins, but not for the reason that Mr. Collins would be. He's a good writer and it's probably a really good book. I just wasn't in the mood. Prompt 3, Wickham. Pick a book with a misleading cover. The only thing I could think of, and I don't have it to show, but I think it's the Penguin edition of George Eliot's Romola, however you say her name. They have this beautiful dark-haired woman on the cover, this painting. And all through the book, you hear about Romola's blonde hair, her beautiful, long, blonde locks, and they're even kind of symbolic about her sort of innate goodness or whatever. And yet, the publisher chose to put this picture on the cover of a dark-haired woman. Like, didn't they read the book? Didn't they know anything? So that put me off. So that was the only thing I could think of as a misleading cover. It wasn't horribly misleading, but Anyway, prompt number 4, Mr. Knightley. Pick a childhood favorite that has stuck with you through thick and thin. There's many of these because I read a lot as a child and I loved a lot of books as a child and they really made an impact on me. But I'm going to randomly pick, just because I've been thinking of it lately for some reason, the book Rascal by Sterling North. I absolutely adore that book, read it several times. I read it out loud to my kids. I've read it in adulthood just as an escape, to reacquaint myself. And I just love that book. It's about a pet raccoon, a young boy. I don't know, is it around the turn of the last century, or maybe it could even be as late as the 30s? And he takes in this little baby raccoon and raises it. And it's just a wonderful story, really well written. So that would be Mr. Knightley. Okay. Prompt number 5, Edward Ferrars. Pick a book that keeps coming back to your mind that you can't stop thinking about. And that is this book, Laurus, by Eugene Volodyaskin. And I'm planning to read this after I finish The Brothers Karamazov. Or Karamazov, however you say it. I can never, ever say it right. Because this reminds me very much of that. And I read this on my Kindle several years ago, and I've been thinking about it so much that I bought it in a hardcover, and I'm planning to reread it soon. So that's my that's Edward Ferrars. Prompt number 6, Willoughby. Pick a book that sounded so good but ended up disappointing you. Well, there's 2 that come to mind. I recently read Kindred by Octavia Butler. I was underwhelmed, although it did have its good points, but I was underwhelmed. And then before that, the Daughter of Time by Josephine Tey, which everybody loves but me. I'm the only person that doesn't love that book, but I really didn't like it. And I read it, but the whole time in my head I was like critiquing it. So that didn't, it disappointed me. And I don't know why I'm the only person, probably on BookTube, who doesn't think that book deserves the status of a classic. Anyway, number 7, Captain Wentworth. Pick an underrated book that deserves more love. So I have a friend named Carol, and she wrote a book like that she published herself or whatever. It's just published on Amazon, and it's called Unlovely. And it is a dark and disturbing book. So if you don't like dark, and I don't usually like dark and disturbing books, but this one was good. Every once in a while I do like a dark and disturbing book. And this one was one of them. And I think it's underrated. I think there are such great writers out there that don't get published or they don't get the recognition that they deserve. If I could find it, I have also a book of short stories by this obscure writer that he just sent me. His niece, I think, or his daughter, sent me a copy of his short stories, and they were absolutely wonderful. Why isn't he better known? I don't know. But Carol wrote this book, Unlovely, and I'm going to put the link below, and you can go. She also wrote another book, Boxing Wendy, which was good, but not as good, I didn't think, as Unlovely. And it was along similar lines too. It was still good, but Unlovely, whew, I thought that was really well done. So I'm going to say Unlovely by Carol Walsh Greer is my underrated book that deserves more love. So that is it for me. I'm going to be like Charles and say I tag no one, but really anybody who wants to do this, it's a fun one and it's short. Anyone who wants to do this tag, please feel free to do it. So I think that's it from me. I can't think of anything else I wanted to say. Anyway, happy reading. I hope you're doing well. Take care. Bye-bye.